Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I welcome you all to the 37th meeting and 19th online meeting of Orators in the Cloud Toastmasters Club. I am Gurunath and I will be the SIA for this meeting. Every morning when I wake up and look at myself in the mirror, one thing always runs in my mind. What if I was not born as a human? What if I was born as a god who could travel to any part of the world without applying for a visa or without paying a single penny? I would always wonder whether I'm actually really woke up from the sleep or still in dreams. Funny, isn't it? Just like me, most of you would be having these kind of hypothetical questions running in your mind. Let us hear more on this from our Toastmaster of the day, Abhijit. Toastmaster Abhijit is going to drive the rest of the session. Before proceeding to the session, I would like to set some ground rules for this meeting. Kindly keep your mobile phones in silent mode or switch it off. Please turn the camera on for most of the time and turn on the mic whenever your turn comes. Please do not talk on the taboo topics such as sex, politics, and religion. I would strongly encourage everyone to upload before and after the arrival of a speaker. This meeting will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. If anyone has concern in not recording the speech, then please let me know after the meeting. We will edit the video before uploading it on YouTube channel. With this, I would like to call the presiding officer of today's meeting, Toastmaster Hind.
Thank you, Gurunath. Welcome. Hello, everybody. It's been 2 weeks since most of these faces were seen in this meeting, and it's been more than that for a couple of faces like Gurunath and Avinash. Hi, everybody. How are you? That's good to hear. Some changes are quite visible, like Arjun has somehow cleaned up himself. He looks like a younger version of the Arjun that we saw, while Bhargav's hair just chose to grow in a vertical direction. I hope that meeting after some time gives us a perspective into what the role that Toastmaster plays in our lives, and we couldn't have had a better TMoD to drive this comeback meeting kind of sorts than Toastmaster Abhijit. But before calling him on, I'd like to welcome our guest, Vamsi. Hi, Vamsi.
Is my voice audible?
Yes.
Yeah, hi.
I would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, this is Vamsi. You can also see the name that I have modified in the participants list. I'm presently VP Education for Wipro cohorts. I came to your 25th meeting, if you can recollect. And the reason why I remember that meeting was because AhCounter Arjun that day gave a wonderful speech, and I remember still that speech. And the other thing was I gave a table topics on video games, and by the way, I was the best table topic speaker that day.
That looks like a gauntlet being thrown. OITC folks, that looks like a gauntlet being thrown that he'll participate in table topics today as well, and he is here to steal our award. Let's make sure, or let's give him a fight. Now, before I welcome Abhijit, Toastmaster Abhijit, who is the Toastmaster of the day, I have just one small question to our grammarian. Is that the some seat of Alauddin Khilji or some sorts, or what is it?
Sorry to disappoint you, but this is just a stock image just I picked up of me sitting on a throne because the level of no one was noticing me, so I thought let me just sit on a throne and maybe something will change, but apparently not. So yeah,
you were already on your way of becoming Khilji. It's such a shame that you had to cut short. Anyway, without wasting any more of time, let's begin the proceedings. Please welcome, put your hands together for our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Abhijit.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, Toastmaster Hind. A very warm good evening to fellow Toastmasters of Orators in the Cloud. and our wonderful guest, Vamsi from Wipro cohorts. Today, I picked Toastmaster of the Day role for predominantly two reasons. The first one, I didn't want one more Toastmaster session to be cancelled. So I thought I'd just go ahead and pick and keep the motion going. And the second one was I actually wanted to give a demonstration of how to prepare for a Toastmaster of the Day role with minimum preparation. Uh, so I've not spent more than a couple of hours on this in the whole week. And maybe that's too much for some people. Maybe it's okay. But the idea here is to just come here and speak, to find the opportunity to talk to each other in a non-professional setting while trying to focus on some of the aspects that you want to work on. Sometimes we might get too bogged down with the content, how shiny the content should be, how wonderful the lines should be, how awesome the vocabulary should be. And we just put too much pressure on ourselves and end up bailing out. I think that's something that might be happening a lot in our clubs. So I just wanted to kind of give a demonstration and change that. Hopefully I succeeded it and I don't really go to the another and of which would still be fine, because if you've seen me doing that, hopefully that can give you the confidence to do it yourself. Remember, it's the forum to fail gracefully and in a supportive atmosphere. With that, the theme of the day is what if. Now, as I told you, I kept it things simple. So I have this book which I really didn't get a lot of time to read. It's been a while. It's called What If? Surprise, surprise. And it's written by somebody called Randall Munro. He's not a very famous guy. He used to be a robotics engineer at NASA for a certain amount of time in his career. He has a degree in physics, so he has a very strong science and maths background. And he always used to have a lot of fun to really try to get weird questions and using back of the hand mathematics as well as science, try to answer them. So today, all through this meeting, I'm going to present some questions to all of you. I'll pick one of you to answer that question. And then maybe even based on what you feel you want to answer there, it doesn't have to be scientifically correct. But then finally, I'll give you some tidbits of that answer and encourage you to get a copy and read yourself. Sounds good? Sounds like a plan? Thumbs up? Okay, all right, perfect. Before we go into the next round, which is calling our GE, the GE might be aware, others will get to know now that we didn't have any questions that were thrown out to everybody to prepare themselves before the meeting. So again, one more instance where things can be pretty simple and the show can still run in a pretty nice way. The first thing I want to throw out, first question, are you ready for it? Okay, all right. The theme of the question is global windstorm. And this is your question. By the way, this question will be answered by our next speaker, who is the general evaluator, Akshaya. So the question is, what do you think would happen if the Earth suddenly stopped spinning, but the atmosphere retained its velocity? And if you were caught up in such a situation, what would you do? Please welcome our Toastmasters, Toastmaster Akshaya, who is the general evaluator for the day. Before introducing her team to everybody, she'll just go ahead and answer this question. Akshaya, all yours.
Spinning.
Two key components, I'll repeat those. Earth stops
Actually,
suddenly.
I did not. I'm a bit rusty.
Yeah, let me repeat it for you.
Yes.
The Earth suddenly stopped spinning, but the atmosphere retained its velocity. What do you think will happen, and what would you do in such a situation?
I don't exactly remember the physics that I have to channel to answer this question, but all I can think of is I won't be seeing days and nights, and I would choose to do something which I'm just trying to come up with some non-technical answer for this. Maybe I would choose to do something which I really like, because I believe that this would lead to a scenario wherein we would not have days and nights. So what is something that I can, maybe I would choose to, maybe I would, I don't know, maybe I might fear doomsday, and I can choose to eat maximum number of dosas as possible, because I believe that I might really miss dosa. That is what I'm thinking. I don't know. I mean, what should I answer to this? I mean, I'm not able to come up with the physics beyond this. So I mean, I think we are expected to do something like that. I don't. I mean, I just gave some non-technical answer. What did I do? I don't know. Maybe
Which is perfectly fine.
You would be missing good mornings and good nights.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see this normally only to people, so I'm just wondering what to do.
If this happens on Sunday, then Sunday would stay forever, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Okay, Chet, do you have anything else to mention? It's perfectly fine. I mean, I'm not expecting an answer to be correct.
Right now, I'm chasing this Sushant case, so I would maybe take some time to visit the facts and see who I can think as this culprit who could have led to. Maybe I can choose to, because I feel that will go on even after the Earth stops spinning and it starts to come back. It will go on. So yeah, I know it's a bit of a weird one.
Thank you, Akshaya. Thanks for your answer. Just to kind of give some guidelines here. Be perfectly creative. It's perfectly fine. This is one of those instances, one of those forums where you're asked a question about a VXLAN. You don't have to answer on VXLAN. You can talk about OSPF for all you want, right? The point is that you want to talk about something creatively and say it confidently while you try to nurture some of your inner communication skills. Anyways, let me give you the answer. Before trying to eat dosas or trying to follow a case, I think you would want to try and survive. Okay, if something like that happens, nearly everyone would die. I thought there was no prizes for guessing that. With the atmosphere still, intact and Earth stopped, you would suddenly see winds blowing at thousands of kilometers, thousands of miles per hour. Like you will have supersonic winds that will blow everywhere between 42 degree north and 42 degrees south, which is where 85% of the human population lives. Unless you are in a deep vault, you will most likely not survive. The best chance of surviving is close to the poles. So people sitting somewhere in those scientific military stations in Antarctica might be the ones who might have the best chance of surviving. But things are not so dismal, or so rather abysmal. The moon, that interestingly continues to get pushed away from the Earth, will actually start getting pulled closer, and like a good ally, it can even use its own gravity and try to spin the Earth back again. With that, over to you, General Evaluator. Please go ahead and introduce your team.
Thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster. Abhijit, there were many times that I wondered whether I can actually be somebody who can give positive feedback, and kind of somebody who had this talent to give feedback. But I was doubting the skills till Saturday night, the last Saturday night, when I decided to watch this marvel of 2020. It's called Sadak 2. It is on Hotstar. If you have the patience, you can go and watch it. So it talks about some weird story and weird characters, from flat out bonkers to straight up creepy. You have all the wonders of 2020 just put into those 2 hours. And I reviewed this film for an entire day, and I spent almost the entire day dissecting every part of it and how stupid it possibly got. So that is when I decided maybe I have the skills to be an evaluator who can give some positive feedback. So today I encourage all my team members, my tag team, and the speech evaluator to use something called this a sandwich method. It is very famous in the speaking circuits. So it's basically where you use a technique where you give the positives that you feel about the speech or about the show, and then you slowly switch on to what you feel can be worked upon, or things which can be challenged, and finally you round it off by saying some of the positive things again. So today let's try to make some good sandwiches, and with that I did something which I should not have done. I asked some questions to my tag team members before, so I did not get this what if game right before on, or else I would have asked them here. So the first person on the tag team is our timer, who has who has staged a comeback after so long. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome our timer of the day, Toastmaster Avinash, who wants to be a lion if all the humans were to disappear on Earth one day. Please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Toastmaster Avinash.
Thank you, Toastmaster Akshaya. Hello, myself, Avinash. So the moment I got to know that theme was what if, so I just realized that I didn't know that Abhijit took it from a book. I thought this is what our condition currently in the entire world. Entire world is dependent on what if decisions. What if we get vaccine now? What if we don't get vaccine? Where should we invest? What is the business decisions? I think this is the most appropriate situation where we get to know how to balance what if both on positive side and negative side. If we think more on negative side, we'll not be able to move forward. If you think more on positive side, there is a risk that we're going to fall in a big loss or in a big ruin, right? So we saw the lockdown, the decisions taken, and the lockdown released and then increased. So yeah, so I felt it's very appropriate for the current situation, and maybe this is the time that we ourselves, I think each one of us, have adopted Toastmasters happening on the Zoom meeting. So if we had stopped what if, then it would be a disaster. So I think it's good to think about what ifs in a balanced way. So telling that, today's my role is timer. So as usual, we have a minimum time at which I would show. There's nothing flashy in this. I would just show the green return towards the camera. I'll ensure that it is visible. Then at 1.5 minutes, which is that you have reached your minimum, but you're halfway through your maximum time, I will show yellow. And last, when it is timed out, I would show you return red. So please make sure that you have visibility of my video in your screen. If not, I think you'll be keep running. Please make sure that I'm visible to you, and try to read the letters. Maybe it's that will make you more conscious and stop. That's a one challenge for you guys. So yeah, that's it from my side. All the best for all the speakers. Thank you. Over to Toastmaster Akshaya.
Thank you, Toastmaster Avinash. So I asked Arjun, because Arjun is going to be counting the number of words that the number of repetitions. I already did one. The number of repetitions that we are going to be doing today. I asked him if he was used to use if he was given a chance to use only one word for the rest of his life, and he would not get a chance to use any other word. I asked him, what would that word be? Can anyone guess like what is the answer that he would have possibly said?
Arjun?
Yeah, Arjun.
The word.
I mean, please give Toastmaster appropriate answers again.
Bye.
Sorry?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Okay.
The
He
word
said,
should be Arjun.
Ronaldo.
he,
Like Ronaldo.
he said food, because he can always tell to people that he's hungry. He said food. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our AhCounter of the day, Toastmaster Arjun.
Thank you, Akshaya, for your lovely introduction. That's why the reason why I said food was because I thought of my survival, and I knew that if I say food, I'll get food. And even if I'm not hungry and I say food, I can always choose to keep it in the fridge and eat it later when I am hungry. Today, my job is to count the number of crutch words, repetitions, and pauses you guys use in your speeches and in your speaking segments. I'll ensure that we catch each and every of it and maybe give you a proper tallied result at the end of the meeting when the evaluation starts. With that being said, yeah, using only one word has another advantage. Not only will it save me from starvation, but I wouldn't use any ahs, ums, thels, so because I wouldn't be capable of using those words. So my record will be pretty clean. Over to General Evaluator Akshaya.
Thank you, Toastmaster Arjun. So I asked another interesting question, which I believe is interesting, to our next evaluator on the board, that is Toastmaster Sumedh. What if you wake up one morning and you realize that you have inherited the talent to speak a language that you probably did not know the day you went to sleep? So if you were to be put in that kind of a situation, what language would you like to strangely inherit overnight? And any guesses in the house? What he said, think of like a very Sumedian way to answer this. Any guesses of a
Game of
language
Thrones
that
language.
also believe that he would come up with something like that, but he said body language. I would really like to call Toastmaster Sumedh to explain his answer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Toastmaster Sumedh.
Thank you, Akshaya. So it is pretty simple, folks. When I was in college, and this is going to be one of those college stories I will always tell. My roommates were Tamilians. And so this used to happen every morning when I used to wake up. People would be speaking in Tamil and I would not have a clue of what they were about to speak or what they were actually doing with their lives anyway. So the only way I could actually figure out what is going on was by looking at what they were portraying with their body language. So another one of the survival instincts batch here. So if you want to survive people you don't understand or speak the same language with, I think body language is what you need to use. Yeah, that's not a Sumerian answer, but well, that's what I could manage. Coming back to my job here today, I'm the grammarian, and my basic lookout today is everyone uses appropriate usage of grammar. That's what grammarian means. So that is one thing that I'll be doing. The other thing is introducing a word of the day. So the word of the day today is cognizant, not the company, but cognizant of the being aware. That's what cognizant means. So I'll just use it in one of these sentences. He was cognizant of the difficulties she was facing, right? So when you're aware of something, you can use cognizant. Understood? All right. So with that, I would like to hand over the mic back to Toastmaster of the day, Akshaya. Oh, General Evaluator of the day, Akshaya. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster Sumedh, because maybe I'm making the G role sound like TMoD, so I think it's time to don my G hat. So as the G of the day, I'm going to be looking at a few things. I put out the laundry list from the website today. So it mentions about looking into the timeliness of the meeting and ensuring that role takers do their duty, and also in the performing duties are being taken care of. So these are some of the things which are mentioned in the laundry list. So I will give my report at the end of the meeting. So with that, I am cognizant of the miseries that Avinash is going through. We have already taken a lot of time to introduce the jury. So I'm going to hand the stage back to our TMoD, Abhijit. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Akshaya. Moving on. So the earth stopped spinning for a while until the moon brought it back alive. All of us were busy, running a Toastmaster meeting deep in a vault. So we all survived. So we get to play on. Moving on to the next question. For this one, I want to do a 10-second exercise with you. Can all of you, if possible, quickly stand and jump wherever you are? You don't have to jump front, back, anywhere, just at your spot. Okay, all right. For all of you who were able to do that, thank you. Now the question is, all of us jumped here at our own spots, and all of the jumps were also not synchronized. What if all the population of the planet Earth was packed into one place? You could put it anywhere. In this specific example from the book, this was in Rhode Island in northeastern part of the US. That's the kind of area that would take to pack everybody so that everybody can stand next to each other. And everybody jumps at the same time and lands at the same time. What do you think will happen? Anybody wants to raise their hand and answer the question? Hind, go for it.
Earth would slow down by just a tiny bit. Sorry, speed up, sorry.
Okay, and if you were one of those people, what would you do right after the experiment is done?
Check for my cell phone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, that's it. That's a nice answer. So, sorry to be a wet blanket, Hind, but nothing will happen, really. when we go up, the density change in the air will be so little, given that we can't really go beyond, I don't know, half a meter as human beings jumping properly. And landing back, the amount of area to absorb the shock is just too huge for Earth to even break a sweat. So nothing would happen. But the interesting part is the second part of the question: what will you do next? Now everybody, somebody did some magic, brought everybody at one place. Now everybody has to go back, right? Now the ports in that city, the train system, as well as the airports of all the close by cities combined, would have to ferry people for years before they can even send everybody back to where they were. On top of that, what Vamsi mentioned, you will suddenly have total blackout of cellular connectivity, including the people from that area, because the cellular connectivity would just collapse given the load. Now you suddenly have people who don't, and most likely are around people whose language they don't know, trying to get food, water, breaking into supermarkets. Gas stations would be unmanned because guess what, everybody is there. There will be no cops and nobody is going to man anybody anyway. So you're going to see a lot of deaths just because of the anarchy and chaos that will happen. So one interesting thing that I liked about this book is it doesn't really stop at just answering the question you asked, but it goes through the process of what else could happen and the things beyond that, and really brings up very, very different perspectives. So that was one interesting anecdote for you. All right, moving on. I still have one more question that I want to ask the next speaker. Today we have Bhargav, who's going to give his first speech. I believe it's an icebreaker. And before I call him for a speech, we obviously need an evaluator to let us know how well he did and also motivate Bhargav to come back and give more speeches. To evaluate Bhargav, today we have Fathima, who's going to be his evaluator. Before I introduce Fathima to come here and let us know about the objectives, I want to ask the next question to Fathima. Fathima, are you ready?
Yes, sir, Abhijit.
Okay, perfect. If humans simply disappeared from Earth, what would be the last artificial source of light or artificial light source that would go out for a long, long time and would be the last one to get extinguished? Remember, it's not a quiz. You can just think of anything and just talk about it. Or you can talk about the situation itself, although you wouldn't be there in reality.
The last artificial source of light which would, okay, I'm very bad at physics and I couldn't think of any answer. I would just shrink the question to my home. That's it. That's all I can do. So what would last longer is the recently put tube lighter bulb. That's all. So I really don't know. Maybe Abhijit can actually take up and let us know the answer. So just thinking my home is my world. The last light that would show up, the last artificial light that would show up here would be the recently put a new bulb or tube light, whatever it is. So I think, can I go ahead with the speech, or I would Abhijit, you wanted to give the right answer and then we'll go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just give a quick answer and then you can go ahead with the objectives. Okay, so I don't know, geography, I think it was covered in geography, maybe different sources of power on the planet Earth that human beings have created. In this order, fossil fuels would obviously be the first one that will actually run out. Anything powered by fossil fuels, right? Next will be diesel generators, right? Geothermal plants can go for a bit longer. You do have wind turbines that are actually built to last up to 3 years without any requirement for a maintenance. So in automated mode, it can go for longer, potentially go for a decade without any maintenance before they corrupt, before corrosion sets in, which is going to be one big factor in almost everything, bringing it to an end. Hydroelectric dams, batteries in that order will actually last for longer. Nuclear reactors, interestingly, can go for much, much longer, almost for infinite amount of time. But most nuclear reactors are built around system where if there is an external power that runs the nuclear power plant itself, runs out, the nuclear power shuts down to prevent any catastrophe. So otherwise it could have gone for longer. The next thing is solar power. Solar power actually can really sustain for things almost as long as the electrical circuitry doesn't really corrode or the sun doesn't really disappear, just like the people on the earth, right? So, but we have a comparison between space probes or satellites that have a lot of components, electrical components, as well as some LEDs here and there, which are run by solar power. They will still probably run out first because they might crash into orbital garbage, or they might just end up with their time in orbit and fall back to Earth. The answer here is, I don't know, in India you won't see much. In the US or in most of the developed countries, you have solar powered emergency response systems, which are actually laid across the remote parts of the country. If they are packed in a very tight setting so that rust can't go in, dust can't go in, those are probably the ones that can go on for decades. There is also another interesting answer about toxic waste. If you consider that as a self-illuminating component in our dumps, that can actually go on for centuries. So, that's the answer there. With no more boring you with these, questions. I think Bhargav is really urging to get on with the speech. Let me reintroduce Fathima as the first evaluator. Please welcome Fathima, and let's hear the objectives for Bhargav's speech.
Hi all, everyone. Good evening. So yeah, today the icebreaker speech is gonna given by our Toastmaster Bhargav. So Bhargav, the purpose of the speech is to introduce yourself to the club and learn about the basic structure of the speech. We all already knew you, but we would like to know more from you about your childhood and so many other interesting things. The timer, the speech duration for icebreaker is 4 to 6 minutes. So please make note of the timings accordingly. And Bhargav, you look tensed, so please focus. And then a few things like focus on vocal variety, eye contact, and physical gestures. And we are sure your speech will definitely go good. All the best, Bhargav. And over to Toastmaster Abhijit. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Fatima. Bhargav, I really apologize. I didn't really catch your or ask for your speech title. Can you really tell pretty quickly?
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow. Perfect. Before you go with the flow, can you please answer a very small question for us?
Sure.
How high can a human being throw something? Any guesses?
How high can a human being throw something? Without any mechanical support, I believe. So, yeah.
Just a wild guess is good enough.
I mean, I just throw a ball. The maximum it could go is like some few meters, and not more than that. And as you said, something which it could be something which is lighter than the ball. But then if it is lighter than the ball, it would have more air resistance and might be it wouldn't go so far. I mean, some sort of light thing. Yeah, I'm not sure. Might be a few meters, not more than that.
Okay, thanks, Bhargav, for giving us some perspective there. Well, you're pretty close. The answer is in meters. And the second thing is that the context matters. Of course, if you're going to try a basketball versus a golf ball, you'll get difference how high you can go. But let's assume a golf ball. The highest a human can throw is around as tall as 16 giraffes. A standard giraffe here is 5 meters. So you can do the math. That's the maximum that somebody can throw. All right, with that, I hope everybody is ready and gearing up for this wonderful speech that is going to come from Toastmaster Bhargav. Please join me in welcoming Toastmaster Bhargav. Go with the flow. Go with the flow, Toastmaster Bhargav.
Finally, the day comes. And here goes the sheepish laugh, assuring everyone that I'm not tensed. I took my first breath around 25 years ago on a rainy Wednesday morning in the historical city of Hyderabad. I was the first among the 2 children of my accountant father and architect mother. Growing up, both my parents were working, so I spent the initial years of my life with my paternal grandparents and cousins in a small village in coastal Andhra Pradesh. I was the youngest of all the cousins, so my grandparents loved me so much. I was the most pampered kid. My grandparents also loved something else, the movies. They watched a lot of movies. Whenever they went to watch a movie, they used to take me and my cousins along with them. Unlike other kids of my age who used to sleep throughout the movie, I used to sit on my grandmother's lap and watch the whole movie very intently. And I soon became a movie buff. Cinema theater became my best and favorite place. I used to ask my grandparents every week to take me to a movie while I was so young. And while I was as young as 3, my grandparents recognized that I started delivering some of the dialogues from the movies without even understanding what they meant. My grandparents felt that it was really cute, and they started encouraging me more. They even started teaching me more and more dialogues. Soon enough, I found myself in between so many people every day who used to come, lure me with an Asha chocolate, and ask me to deliver their famous or favorite dialogue. I used to do it happily. I became sort of a showpiece, and I loved all the attention I was getting back then. Looking at all, and when someone used to ask me at that time what I wanted to do with my life, I used to say I want to become an actor. Looking at all this, my parents feared that I would really become an actor. So if I stay for so long with my grandparents, so they brought me back to Hyderabad and enrolled me into a school at the age of 3. I was enrolled directly into LKG, and I skipped nursery. And my teachers found it as a very uphill task for me to make me write the alphabet. Even after 6 months of futile efforts, I couldn't write the alphabet. So what happened? I was thrown out of school after 6 months. So my first year in education started with a failure. And then again started LKG next year. And now my parents started believing that I think I would really become an actor. I can't study, might be. And then to their surprise, the later years of my schooling went really well. I was always among the top 3 in my class. Might be because studying LKG for 1.5 years gave me a strong foundation. I used to really enjoy the school days. Though I was really good at academics, I was a very naughty kid in the class. My teacher always used to warn me, Bhargav, stop talking. If you don't stop talking now, I'll just put a tape on your mouth. One fine morning, one of our teachers did that. She just came to my bench, she put a tape on my mouth. And I had to put that tape on my mouth for like 2 hours. And it felt so humiliating. I cried a lot that day. In fact, the best time in school was the lunch period. For me, it's the best time. Not because I got to eat tasty food, because in the lunch period, if you get to eat your food fast, we could go and play in the ground. I loved playing badminton, and I used to go and play badminton for hours in the ground after having lunch. School days were very fun. You didn't have to worry so much about the future. You always lived in the present. If I had only if I had a goal in school days, the only goal was that I wanted to become a doctor. But my parents said, why do you want to become a doctor? You're so good at math and science. Doctor is for girls. Your sister could do it. You prepare for IIT JEE. So they enrolled me into this institute called Narayana, which is literally a machine masquerading as a coaching institute. Narayana so finely takes in kids, or you could say geeks, 16-year-old geeks, and produces rank holders out of them. So my fate was decided. I was put amongst this so many 16-year-old geeks who already seemed to know everything because they had IIT foundation from like 6th standard. Those 2 years of 11th and 12th were so strenuous. They somehow passed. And finally the D-Day came. I gave IIT JEE. I expected that I would I would go into either Kanpur or Kharagpur, if not Bombay or Delhi. But I ended up in Dhanbad. I was so sad. I was devastated. I thought so many years of hard work just went in vain. But once I reached college and listened to the obituaries of all the people around me, I thought I was not the only single person. Everyone had the same story to say. So then I got to believe that that is what was written in my fate and that is what I deserved. College was so fun. Basically, the night spent in hostel doing nothing productive, talking all night with friends and playing video games were the best part in the college. I never went to bed in hostel before 3 a.m. Even though I had a class in the morning at 8 a.m. I used to wake up at 7:50 a.m. in the morning for an 8 a.m. class, even after the alarm has, snoozed for like several minutes. With my eyes barely open, I used to sit in the class, but my policy was, once in the class, you have to listen to what the lecturer says, however bad it is. I was an outlier as I had almost 100% attendance in engineering. Actually, I count that as one of my achievements because having almost 100% attendance in engineering is like really tough. Apart from education, I was into different clubs. I was in the literary club of my college. I was an editor in the college newsletter. I had a brief stint in the student council. And some of the best friends I made in college were from all these clubs. And I had some best moments with them. After college, I came to Bangalore. Bangalore was a sudden surprise to me. From a sleepy town like Dhanbad, where you couldn't find anyone on the road after 9 p.m., I came to this sprawling metropolitan, cosmopolitan city where nothing seemed impossible. You could do anything in the city. You could achieve anything. So I landed into a job which was pretty interesting and it had a good work-life balance. So I started doing things which I never thought of doing, which I never dreamt of doing in my life. I enrolled myself into a gym. I started trekking, cooking more. I started cooking and it became more of a therapy to me than a hobby. And then I realized that I wanted to be a storyteller throughout my life. And I realized that traveling would make me a good storyteller and it would give me a lot of content. So I never missed an opportunity to travel in the last 3 years of my life. The prime years of life were going on full throttle until the pandemic hit upon us. All the plans I've made for the whole year got busted. I was so sad. But realizing the havoc the pandemic has caused on the masses, I thought my problems were just third world. And then I sat down and this pandemic gave me some time to think about my present and the future. I thought I thought life took me into places where I never imagined to be. From almost becoming an actor, to wanting to become a doctor, to finally being an engineer. I never had so much control over my life. And it is very futile effort to actually have complete control over your life. So I thought more. And ironically enough, I made a to-do list of all my dreams and made a resolution that throughout my life, my only job would be to strike off all the dreams in that list. And for the rest of the mundane stuff in life, my policy would be go with the flow. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Bhargav. That was a wonderful speech. It was so well crafted and everything about it went with the flow, especially from the audience point of view. I think we were hooked from the beginning. We picked the flow well and then we stood with it. If you were to do the speech in a conference room where we used to meet, we would actually given you a round of applause or at the same time a standing ovation. Unfortunately, we can't do that. I would still request everybody to go to their reactions button at the bottom and pick the rightmost, that cone which celebratory frills going out to, give a lot of encouragement and motivation to our first time speaker here. All right. We would love to hear more and more from you, Bhargav. Thank you very much for taking this today. Moving ahead, some of you have got to speak a bit on some of the absurd questions that I've asked already, but there is a huge segment which I'm pretty sure will not be as absurd as this one. But there is one person who will never get a chance to speak in a table topic session. Any guesses who that person is?
Table topic master.
Absolutely. So the next question is for the table topic master. And this is actually so pertinent. It almost seemed so fascinating to see this question in a book which has been written long, long ago. So the question is on common cold, but we can actually extrapolate that to any virus. If everyone on the planet stayed away from each other for a week, and everyone means everyone, even from the same family, wouldn't common cold or any viral infection or any virus be completely wiped out? All yours.
Yeah, firstly, thank you, Abhijit, for throwing me under the bus. That I thought that was my task today, but it looks like you have not spared me also. So regarding your question about the virus, that question actually has made me so happy, because I'm imagining that happening right now, to be very honest. Everybody staying away from each other for 7 days. I think after that, the next 10 days, we would have nothing. Everyone would be, the health system would have nobody. Everybody would be chilling out, having no virus around. But then after that, you see, after effects of not having been around each other is like probably everyone sitting in the same room trying to talk more to each other. So I think that will cause more damage afterwards. So that's my answer.
But you do agree that it will actually wipe out common cold or any viral infection for that matter?
For the 10 days that follow that 7-day period, yes, probably.
Okay, so the answer is almost. In an ideal world, yes, that would happen. So the viral infections, as we all know, can only thrive and circulate if they have one host who's infected and another host it can jump to. In this kind of situation, ideally, if everybody stays away for a week, given we're talking about a virus which actually stays for just a week, in coronavirus, who knows, that is 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, or a month, or whatever. Even if it was 21 days and everybody would stay away from each other for 21 days, technically it is possible that the virus will become extinct and it will stop troubling us altogether. Only if everybody was blessed with the same immune system. Unfortunately, for a lot of vulnerable people who have immunocompromised situation, the same virus could take months to actually get out of their system if they were to stay alive. Now, which means after 21 days, you could go happily back to your friends and your peers and everybody thinking that life is all good, except that one virus is somewhere in some host, and all it takes is one virus, one host, and to get transmitted and come back in circulation. So huge sigh, but that's not going to happen. With that, let's go ahead and give an opportunity for everybody to speak on their feet. I'm really, really appreciative of the fact that Shreya has always obliged whenever I've thrown her under the bus. I think she's so good at that, and she took this role even though she told me a huge list of reasons why she can't take it. So thanks for doing that. And with that, please welcome Table Topic Master, Shreya.
Thank you, Abhijit. I feel like you again very subtly threw me under the bus, saying that I gave a lot of excuses, but I just ended up taking the role anyway. That's okay. I thought we could just continue with the session that Abhijit has started of what ifs. Make this whole, follow the theme through and through. So I also have similar questions, and I must say that Akshaya almost stepped on one of my questions. So let's have some volunteers, please. Someone who would like to go first?
Yeah, I will go. Vamsi here.
Yeah. Yes, he's trying to win again, you guys. Keep that in mind. Next person.
Not like
okay.
that.
Yeah, just kidding, Vamsi. Sure, we would be more than happy to have you.
Yeah.
Can you please pick a number from 1 to 10?
7.
7. Okay. What if you could choose a species to rule over the world? Basically rule over all the species present today. Which species would you choose and why? I'll put the question also on the chat.
If I were to be that species?
you could choose any species on Earth to rule over the world in whichever manner they wanted, which species would you choose and why?
Definitely Homo sapiens, because either it is damaging the world or making it a better place. Nobody is as much capable as humans, because we always have the two sides of the coin. That's the favorite proverb, that somebody is always in the mode of destruction and somebody is always in the mode of construction. The both sides always fight.
Meeting mobile.
Sorry. Okay, so both sides at some point of time, I believe in a utopian scenario, will come to a conclusion, find a truth and say that let us have a fair deal, that we only destruct this much and you only please construct this much. But that would never happen. Nevertheless, there are these small creatures which are not visible to eyes and cause severe damage to those Homo sapiens, like this coronavirus, all these pathogenic things. Definitely, I would like to be, if the Homo sapiens fail, twist my tables, do some politics, and choose virus and bacteria as my friends. That would really give me an edge over what to be controlled, how to be controlled, when to be controlled. This is irrespective of whether humans can stay 10 days away from one another or 1 week away from one another, irrespective of whether they have 15 days of quarantine or 15 into 2 times quarantine. It doesn't matter. I will always have those friends of mine floating in air, and whenever I order them, enter the body and do the damage that they are bound to do. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Vamsi. That was a fun and creative answer. But I think your answer in the end is not that Homo sapiens are the ruler. It's that you will be the ruler who will be controlling all those tiny microorganisms waiting to pollute others. So thank you. That's a very fun answer that you gave. Can we have another volunteer, please? Who has not taken a role today? There's Hind. Okay, great. Thank you, Hind. Choose a number between 1 and 9, please. 4? Okay. Oh, interesting. What if a movie would be made on your life? How would the movie shape to be? You can talk about the various roles that people play, the various actors who play the roles in the movie, etc.
Well, movie on my life, yeah. It'll be amazing. It'll be a blockbuster. It will rule the charts, rule the box office like fire. Who am I kidding? It'll it'll fizzle out. It'll be released on Netflix because it could not get enough distributors' interest to release in theaters. People will, maybe not even Netflix, maybe Z5. If you have heard of Z5, you are paying too much attention on OTT content. It'll release on Sony Live or Z5. It'll be a newcomer will be cast in it, because we love new talent. Who are we kidding? Because we cannot afford big actors. We don't have money, not an interesting enough story. And who will be cast? I don't know. A newcomer. Myself. Why not? Me playing me. That reminds me. If you guys don't know, Ram Gopal Verma is making a documentary on himself, directed by himself. That's gonna be me. My biography. I'll be directing. I'll be acting. Best case scenario. And what will it be about? It will be about emotionally driven boy who likes to overestimate himself while underestimating the time. Yeah. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much, Hind. Seemed like an honest answer coming to us from your heart. We appreciate that. Can we have just one more timer? One more? All right. Thank you so much. Anybody else who would like to go? I'm just going to pick someone then. Let me just pick Bhargav. Since he has already spoken today, one more chance. Why not? Okay. All right, pick a number from 1 to 8. Did you say something? You're on mute. Huh?
6.
6. Okay. Okay. What if you woke up one fine morning and had switched places with your pet? Describe life then.
You said pet, right?
Yes. I have typed it there. What if you woke up one fine morning and had switched places with your pet? Describe life.
Okay. I always wanted a pet, but I don't have a pet. But I'm going to describe this story with my imaginary pet, Chow Chow, the Labrador. I wake up. The daily life of Chow Chow, the Labrador, would be very mundane. The only thing it does is, generally it goes, sleeps, it eats a lot of food, and again sleeps, and does whoop, whoop. But if I woke up as my pet, might be I would still have my human memories inside me, inside my soul, and those memories would be coming on to this pet. So I would try to I would try to do something more productive out of my life. I would try to be the best dog in the world. I would try to, I would try to invent something called dog language, and put it in a form where humans could understand. I would invent that, and I would become the first dog scientist. And I would take the first dog Nobel Prize for that.
Thank you, Bhargav. That was an interesting peek into the life of a dog. So I am assuming we don't have any more time because we are already late. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Avinash, and thank you guys for letting me host this table topic session. Back to you, Toastmaster Abhijit.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shreya, for a wonderful session. We are able to capture a lot of other people who I couldn't capture. So I think everybody got to speak at least once. So thanks, and great innovative topics there. Now we are moving on to the evaluation section. Before that, I was looking at the screen and trying to figure out among the people who got to speak today, which is everyone, who got the least time to speak. I think between Arjun and Avinash, you two are the ones that I'm looking for to answer next question. Any takers? Or should I pick just one of you? Okay, Arjun. Perfect. Thanks for being a sport, Arjun. The next question is, if you suddenly, now for this example, I mean, just you can consider, I'll just say you, but if you don't want to consider yourself, it's just consider any human being. If you suddenly began rising up from your seat where you're sitting, and you just are in open space and you just continue to rise at the speed of 1 foot per second. Okay. First question, how will you die? Of suffocation first, or of hypothermia first? Okay, or maybe some other cause. And what would you do as you're going? Remember, 1 foot per second is pretty small, or rather pretty slow.
So you mean to say I'll just start floating up in the air randomly? And
just like a helium balloon.
And hypothermia happens when your lungs become too cold, or is it something?
Now, hypothermia basically can affect any part of your body. It's basically because of severe temperature conditions.
Yeah, severe temperature conditions, right? Suffocation. When we go up, the air becomes thin. That's for sure. And I guess I'll go with suffocation because the air becomes thin. I don't think hypothermia will kill me first. That's my guess. Although I'm not that good with biology.
And it's such as I said, it's such so slow time that it will actually take you 25 minutes to go to the top of Empire State Building, let alone continue to go up. What will you do while you're hovering?
You mean to say how to escape from that situation?
No. It's up to
No.
you. What's your thought process? What you're going through?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I will hit the ceiling, right? If I am in an enclosed environment. So
We are in an open environment.
Okay, now if I'm in an open environment and I have nothing to hold on to, then hopefully I'll kind of hit a crane somewhere. You know, like you spoke about Empire State Building. If there's a maintenance crane over there, I'll try to hold on to that, or maybe some ledge. Definitely, I won't sit idle. I'll try to do something or the other. But if I have to die, I'll die with suffocation. Otherwise, I'll have something to obstruct my ascent.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot for your answer, Arjun. So the actual answer is it really depends upon what you're wearing. If you are in minimal clothing, you'll most likely die of hypothermia first.
I had that in mind because I remember parachuters who jump from the aeroplane and helicopters. They have good covering, so if they can survive in that, they will definitely not die with hypothermia. So I went with suffocation because I thought the air will be too.
Yep. So if you were to, as I said, if you have minimal clothing, you'll die around the 5th or 6th hour mark because of certain hypothermia to your outer body parts and eventually cardiac arrest. But if you had a lot of clothing on, you would actually survive that until you get to what is called the death zone, which is 8,000 meters and above. At that point of time, the air is so thin and the oxygen is so less that starting with dizziness and bunch of other things, eventually you'll not know, but you'll just kind of leave the world. And if you were to continue to go up, maybe eventually go to the space, and even 2,000 years later, you'll probably be floating somewhere. The good part is, if the Earth ever collapses into the sun, which is predicted for the galaxy one day, you'll most likely would have exited the galaxy by then, so you will not have to bear that.
Yeah, but I'll still be dead, so.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being a sport and trying to answer these absurd questions. Let's move on to the evaluation section. Please welcome the General Evaluator, Toastmaster Akshaya, to run that section.
Thank you, Toastmaster Abhijit. So I'm cognizant of the time, so I'm not going to waste more time. So I'm going to call upon the timer to start with the evaluation. Please welcome Toastmaster Avinash.
Thanks, Akshaya. The meeting started at 4:04. I think that's fine because it's after a gap. Then most of them are within time, but except that TMoD has a different theme today, so question and answers. So that was not included. Maybe that added to the time, and I think it's still fine. We had good question. I mean, physics, science, biology. Maybe we went back to our school days and basis. That was good. And coming to the first speaker, he took 9 minutes 20 seconds. Maybe he went with the flow. Next time, maybe he can. I think going forward, he will. I believe that he will adjust. He went with the flow and reached 20 seconds. But yeah, sure, there is. He can improve in this area. Apart from that, the coming to table topics, everyone were within minimum and maximum time. No one. It was good. Everyone were in moderate section, and that's it from my side.
Thank you, Toastmaster Avinash. So Fatima was looking to finish up the evaluation, so I shuffled the slots. So now let's go back to Fatima. So Fatima was supposed to be called first. So it's time to call upon our evaluator, our only evaluator of the day, Toastmaster Fatima, to give our feedback. Please welcome Toastmaster Fatima.
Hi everyone. I feel that being an evaluator is the toughest task in Toastmasters. It was very difficult for me to take up this. Okay, so coming to the good things in your speech was very well drafted, Bhargav, iterating the phases of your life from your childhood till to the phase where you are. And you had a good eye contact, at least with the monitor. I didn't see you. Many people tend to do this in their icebreaker speech where they actually think by like moving their eyes up. I didn't see you doing throughout your speech, and you had good vocal variety initially, but when you were going through the speech, there were no ups and downs. The speech was almost in a constant voice, but initially you stressed wherever you wanted to, but going towards the end, I couldn't notice that. And one important thing, you concluded your speech justifying your title which you had, so that's good thing. And another thing, like bringing in conversations within the speech will actually get the attention of the audience. So you brought one such instance, like how your teacher told you, the conversation of a teacher, as how she said, you brought in that, and that created a little, what is the word? Okay, I forgot. So that was good. And coming to the improvements, I have many times I saw you going back and correcting your statement. You made a mistake and then you went back and corrected your statement again. I think we need not go and correct it. Maybe people can correct me. And another thing, only you knew your draft. 3 times I saw you actually skipped to your second sentence as per your draft, I think, but you came back, you told what you had planned, and then again you went to the sentences which was in the flow. So that you actually repeated 2 to 3 times in your speech. Maybe you can go through the video. And time, you took your own sweet time, close to 10 minutes. Maybe if you could have done a sample, like if you could have talked once before the meeting, you would have got an idea of how long your speech duration was, so that you could have done better. Otherwise, for an icebreaker, you did very well compared to all other icebreakers. Good job, Bhargav. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Fathima.
Thank you, Toastmaster Fathima. So I would like to reserve my comments for the end. So I'm not going to, again, I'm going to be cognizant of the time, and I'm going to call on the AhCounter of the day, Toastmaster Arjun.
Okay, I'm going to be very quick with this. So the SAA had 2 hours, 1 pause, 1 soak. The presiding officer had 2 hours, 1 repetition, and another and, which basically starts a sentence. TMoD Abhijit had a lot to say, so this count was definitely higher than the rest. So he had 10 hours, around 8 so's, 2 repetitions, and 2 ands in the between of his speeches. Avinash had 3 hours, 5 so's, 2 repetitions, and 1 and somewhere to start the sentence. Grammarian Sumedh had 4 hours, 4 so's, and 2 ands to start a sentence. Akshaya had 2 ums, 1 pause where she waited for some time, and 6 so's and 4 repetitions. Fathima had 3 hours, 1 and 3 so's, and another colloquial usage of some phrase like. Bhargav had 1 hour, 3 so's, 2 likes, and 6 repetitions. So this basically adds on to Fatima's point where he repeated some phrases, and 5 ands. TTM Shreya had didn't have much to say, so her count was also very less, which was only 2 so's. Our table topic speakers also performed very well. They had Vamsi had 2 hours, Hind had 1 hour and 1 repetition, and Bhargav had 1 repetition. So yeah, that's from my side. I haven't counted the total yet. I didn't get the time to do that, but I hope we well groom our speeches, just like how Hind pointed out my grooming today. So with that being said.
Thank you, Toastmaster Arjun. So, and it's time to call on the Grammarian of the day. I think Sumedh will be extremely thankful to me. Over to you, Toastmaster Sumedh.
Thank you, Toastmaster Akshaya. I'm cognizant of the usage that you put in today. You were the only person I could actually find who used it multiple number of times and therefore bumped up the count to 4. So, which is fine as long as we keep using the words, if not here, then somewhere else. I'm absolutely fine with it. I don't take this personally, by the way, so it's absolutely fine. I'll just come back to the Grammarian's report. Things have been pretty simple for the Grammarian over the past 1 or 2 months because we have kept it pretty simple while we speak. We have understood that we want to take pauses when we do so. And more or less, we have got an innate ability to now speak up properly compared to where we were about a year ago. However, there were some small things that we can still own. One of them with SAA was if anyone has any concern, you complete that and then you move on. So I think that was one thing which was missed. Then the timer actually came up with a lot of phrases without conclusion, so all of them were attached with a comma. So maybe he can work on that and making sure that there are full stops instead of commas repeatedly. And one time is okay, but then you just continue with phrases. At the end, it was like throwing phrases at people. However, we got your point. That is something which we are okay with as a teammate or as a person who works with, but that is something you can improve better, and that is what we want to bring out. Okay, Arjun had the AhCounter missed out. He said every of it. I think it means every one of it. That was one thing. So this is one other thing which I saw, wherein people were speaking at such a pace that they were consuming words. I know he was hungry, but then you don't eat words, right? Anyway, then Fatima had some verb disagreements with the tenses, subject verb disagreements, but still it was a good performance. So we already know who you are, something of that sort, not we already knew. I mean, there is that kind of small things which needs to be changed. And I actually had one for Vamsi as well, wherein he also missed out on one or two proper prepositions in his sentence. I'm not entirely sure where that was, but there were one or two places wherein that could have been better. So one thing which I have realized from the past 2 months is that we have been speaking well. We are technically correct. We have slowed down our pace compared to where we were last year, and we can only do better. Now, one thing which you can do better is use the words that have been given. When I said I did not take it personally, I meant it, but you could have actually used cognizant, right? Let's say whenever Abhijit or Shreya asked you a question wherein they were asking you something hypothetical, you could have said something like, I'm cognizant of all the facts around, or something of that sort. You could have built it across that way. And that is one thing which we all can do going forward. Let's say there is something called as word of the day calendars, if anyone knows about it. So if you have them, this is one way to actually build your vocabulary. You use one of the word every single day. And the way you do it is you build your sentence or a response to someone using that word, provided it is appropriate, right? That is the important part. So I think this is one learning curve we are still going through. We are getting better, but there are, of course, betterments to come yet. So with that, thank you, all of you. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sumedh. I'm going to try to keep my laundry list as concise as possible. So we started the meeting around 5 p.m., which is 5 minutes late. But before, I want to thank everybody who ensured that this meeting happened and who ensured that this meeting can potentially happen. So first, I would like to thank Shreya for the creative poster, and she ensured that it was also put on the WhatsApp group. So a shout out to the PR team for doing its job wonderfully. And I would also like to thank the Toastmaster of the day, Abhijit, for putting together the ensemble and ensuring that we had all the role takers sorted before the meeting actually happened. And with that, we started the meeting 5 minutes late. Of course, this has been around for a while, and I am a latecomer myself. So I think this is something which we can keep in check later on. And I would also like to share in my feedback regarding our speaker, which is Toastmaster Bhargav. I must say that it looked like you took all of us through this museum called Bhargav, wherein you showed the day that you were born, and to your school and to your college, and then finally to where you are today. It just looked like we just had a walkthrough in this museum called Bhargav, and you ensured that you tinged your speech with sarcasm, and it had splashes of reality, and we all could feel like you were actually telling a story. But however, you have to be cognizant of the time, and I can see a lot of myself there. And many people can ask me like, baby, this is not something that you should be telling you, but of course it is important that we have to be cognizant of the time. But I just have one more feedback which I wanted to say. Maybe you can work on your vocal variety, given that you were very good at dialogue basi before. I felt like certain parts of the speech were a bit flat, and maybe you can work on your vocal variety sometime. However, I should also give credit for some interesting words that you use, which is mundane, third world, masquerading. I haven't heard it in a very long time, and more of a therapy than a hobby. Good job, and we hope to see you again very, very soon. And I would also like to mention Toastmaster Shreya Puranik. You did not take a lot of time to explain the table topics, unlike me, which I mean, I took a long time last week to explain what I really wanted to do, and it's a great sign of clarity and preparation. Good job on that, and some interesting table topics. And I would also like to appreciate the table topic masters who spend some time to come up with creative table topics. I could see that these were the topics that these people write. So I think they took some time to come up with some creative topics, and we should give a shout out to that. Good job, Shreya, and it was a very interesting table topic session, and kudos to all the people who took part in it. And last but not the least, I would like to conclude my session by thanking Toastmaster Abhijit for driving the session from the start to the end by adding a lot of I seriously felt like I opened an Ask Me Anything book, and I was going through it page by page, and that is how it was. And it did not feel like time consuming for me, and I believe that all of us had something to take away from this apart from just talking. So thank you for driving this. And with that, I would like to thank everybody for coming over and taking a leaf out of what we did in the HQ meeting. If there is some creative ideas, if anybody wants to share regarding how we can make our meetings better, let's dedicate a minute for it, and then we can bring down the curtains by calling for votes. If there is something that people want to share regarding how we can make our meetings better or how it could have been better, we can devote a minute for that. I see a silence. Can I take that as?
Hang on. You just asked.
Okay.
Give us 5 seconds to think. Okay. Timing can definitely improve. It's like we have faltered on it for so long. And I'm not going to pinpoint, because I know I have, out of the 5 speeches that I have delivered, only one has stuck within the limits. So I exactly know the tendency, and I'm with you on that. But yeah, time.
Can I suggest more things to do in parallel? For instance, like right now we are talking about it. Can all of you parallelly, as you're thinking, go ahead and vote for best OITC? And maybe these things like this we can do, just remind and then just move on and let things be on the side rather than waiting.
For those who have not waited for best table topics, please do that as well. The link has just been shared.
Sorry. So one other suggestion that I have is for the timer, as well as for the agenda. I mean, I think I apologize that I took a lot of time, and there's a big contribution from my side as we are late today. But when I was doing the math, trying to figure out where to stop in the meeting, it was like 4 or 5 is when we started. The meeting agenda tells it that we should end at 5:01, but the actual story time is till 5:15. So, okay, I lost 5 minutes, but I still have 10 minutes. So maybe I can take some more time, and doing that math on the go becomes tough, and sometimes you just are in the flow and then you go beyond. I think what we can really do is make the agenda. We have kind of not changed the agenda a lot and not brought it closer to what time we really take. I think first step is to do that. 1 minute for the introductions of the GE panel for every all the GE helpers or GE in the GE team is just too less if we expect them to also talk a bit about theme. So I think that needs to change. And most importantly, the timer needs to remember that if the sectional times are going way up, again, timer is also sometimes it's difficult because he also has to do this math. Okay, we still might be able to fit in, we still are just 10 minutes over and we have 15 minutes buffer, whatever. If the agenda is sorted, and then the timer can really be empowered to say, no, let's just stop the session here. A bit. But Avinash, you're just first time timer, so definitely nothing against you. I think it's something that all the season timers have also not done. So I think that's maybe something we should do.
So the speaker in the flow, maybe, we tend to do
Yeah.
because,
Yeah, in a speech, it's difficult to do, but I guess in other cases, it's probably easier to interrupt and say, well, this is the last one.
I think it becomes more repetitive of showing the cards because the duration is very short. I mean, maybe there, maybe we can come up with something because it is irritated to all the speakers as well. I mean, we can show it every 1 minute, but every speaker might, it might stop them. Maybe there we can think of something. Because showing in front of everyone, right? The speaker sees it, maybe it blocks his complete mic. I mean, content might be missing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, maybe one section is other section is about to start. We can maybe this timer can tell ahead of time that we are running this much late. So can you keep the next section constrained? And then also another comeback opportunity where one logical pause happens, and then just tell them, oh, let's not do one more, even if we thought maybe we can do 2 more.
What I've seen is the beginning people will take the session, and for the next whoever has prepared, right, I'll assure that it will become most of the time the same thing. Starting people will end up telling right time, and if I tell in between, right, the others will lose the opportunity. The average wise, or else we should stick to 1 minute, maybe start preparing, and maybe some penalty might help there. I mean, people.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, strict enforcement first, penalty, I think it's second step. I mean, so that's what it's like.
We are yet to receive all the votes, so whoever has not voted, I can see that one person has not voted for best table topics and 2 people have not voted for best main roles. So please do.
All right, as you're doing that, I think we'll just say one quick thing and then move on to the presiding officer. And I guess the presiding officer can really announce the speakers at the end. It gives us more time and opportunity for these voters to vote. I would like to say that, as I suggested, the maximum time I actually took was to read, all the questions are answered in like 2 to 3 page format. So you had to really, the maximum time I spent was to go through those and figure out what really needs to be done. Absolutely didn't really prepare anything for it otherwise. So that's why you see a little bit of sloppy time management as well. But having said that, what I really want to reiterate again is there is no one way of doing a role. And that's something we really want to score the point home again and again. Just have to keep it, if you want to keep it simple, please go ahead and do it. You want to keep it in a certain way, please go ahead and do it. Please don't let the expectation of a content really bog you down, because there isn't any. So just please go ahead and take the leap and take a role. The second thing is, because I didn't reach out to the GE as well as the table topic master, binding them in one theme, my hope was that they can come up with their own creativity, which to their credit they did. So I think that makes the meeting much more modular, takes the load off the TMoD, and also gives a lot of opportunity for these individual roles to fit into the general theme or not, whatever, bring out your own creativity. So that's another thing. If you want to follow as a Toastmaster of the day, please go ahead and do it. I hope you will enjoy the session in very which way. I would like to not take too much time and move on to welcoming back the presiding officer of the day to give us his remarks, announce the results, and close the meeting. Please welcome president of the club, Toastmaster Hind.
Thank you, Abhijit. Let's get done with the awards first. So table topic speaker, best table topic speaker. Any supporters? Seeing that there are 10 members in the room and 3 already spoke, so the rest of the 7, if you want to support somebody. Okay, no supporters. You just voted for no reason. We'll take that. Sorry, Vamsi, we had to snatch that award from you this time. It's just that no hard feelings. I'm kidding. I'm extremely thankful and grateful that you joined, Vamsi. And the best table topic speaker for today is none other than the guy whose head cannot just stop growing hair, Bhargav. And it seems only fitting that Bhargav won one award, so we don't give him more than that, right? So the best speaker for today is our TMoD, Toastmaster Abhijit. All right, now best evaluator, like it has happened a lot of time, is a tie. Or it was a tie up until one vote earlier. Damn. I had such a good way of presenting that tie. It was between two frenemies for life, but now one of them have taken over, and the award now goes to our general evaluator, Toastmaster Akshaya. Any guesses for who the other part of that frenemy duo is?
Sumedh.
Yes. It is Sumedh, and I was rooting for Sumedh. Sumedh, it is always Team Sumedh from me. Never Team Akshaya. So my vote was for you. Even if anybody tells you otherwise, don't believe them. All right, that brings our meeting to a closure, and And thank you all for joining in. I really had fun. I think I kept on just trying to have fun out of this meeting, and myself became a little informal about this meeting, which is a good and a bad thing in equal measures. The bad thing about being too informal about these meetings is that we lose the order, we lose the structure, and to grow, at least initially, we need a structured approach to it. We need a focused, directed, structured approach to it, and that is what the Toastmasters predefined structure provides us. That a speaker speaks for that long, and when the speaker speaks for that long, they become cognizant of the timing, right? And well, hi Fatima's son. He keeps on making cameos. It's so fun. Oh, sorry, daughter. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm sorry. Anywho, and the good part about being informal is that it brings in variety. It brings in healthy participation. The participation that does not hold us from being interested in this. Because if we make it too structured and there are too many rules to be followed, and if we want somebody to do such kind of roles, they will have so many reservations against it. So there are good and bad things to in both the approaches towards a meeting, and I think we should do both in equal measures. Our usual problems still exist. The usual suspects are still out there. We have to take care of them. We have to shoot them down. The timings, participation, we somehow want to know how we can improve participation. Right now, let's just say that everybody is an office bearer, and if you have any suggestions, you can always just DM me, Abhijit, Shreya, the whole officer team. You have any suggestions, you can just mail it to us. The channel is entirely open, but we have got to put it out what we think, why Toastmaster works, and why others are not just able to see it. Either they don't want to, which is entirely fine, but if they do have some inkling of getting better at speaking and they still can't see it, that's what we want to look for. That's what we want to understand and resolve. With that, I will close the meeting now. I just have one closing point, and that point is for Bhargav. Bhargav, if you want to wake up as a pet and want to woof woof and develop a language with other woof woof people, then I'd suggest it be a Morse code, because that might work. So small woofs will be dots and woof will be dashes. with that, I'll leave you all and thank you all for joining.